right, well, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt, and with me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And we are still in the glow, the afterglow of the Giants beating the Eagles, something we have not had a chance to cherish in quite some time. Eric, first off, happy Monday, a Sunday of football that was stress-free.
Stress-free.
How you doing, my friend?
Stress-free. It was a very stress-free weekend. We got the bask, as you said, in the glow of beating the Eagles. We don't get to do that much. So yeah, I'm doing well. I have more sleep, so maybe I'll be a little more with it.
Nice. Nice. I was just thinking, have you ever seen the play and or movie Noises Off?
Mm-mm.
Okay. If you ever get a chance, you have to watch it. It's a great play. The movie's pretty funny too, but that just made me think of John Ritter's character wherever he would start to say something. Because as you just said, I think I could be more, and you kind of left it there for anybody to kind of interpret whatever they wanted to do there. And that's John Ritter would talk like that constantly to me. He'd be like, when I feel. You know what I'm trying to say? So everybody's always trying to figure out anyway, that's what it is. But first off, I'm going with a in one of my Game of Thrones glasses that I bought for my wife, which is it says Moon of My Life. So this is for I'm going with a little red wine. If you ask me what it is, I can't remember. So it's a red. Let's just go with
It's sparkling muscatel, one of Idaho's finer wines. Yes.
Well done.
I stopped drinking the Holland 1839. So I don't have all these. If we had the wine out right now, we'd probably have a boxed wine. Not that we'd have a more sophisticated palate, but we go through wine like there's no tomorrow.
Nice.
So okay. I sound like a drunk right now. I better shut up. All right.
Well, no, I mean, if you said Boone's Farm, and I know we're in big trouble. We are in big trouble. All right. So with that said, I thought what we would do here, we're going to keep it fairly tight. You have stuff going on, and we've already covered the previous Giants game. So I thought, let's look. We're going to break the season into thirds. So the first third has happened. The first 6 weeks have now happened. I thought, let's get kind of just recap quickly some of the things that happened there, some things that happened that we were a little surprised with, and then where we are now, and then we'll jump ahead a little just to look at what the next 6 weeks look like, and I have something to bring up for that. So first thing, we went into this season, we made our predictions. I think if you and I had talked and just said, out of the first 6 games, the Giants are going to win 2. I'm pretty positive that we might not have picked the Chargers and the Eagles as the 2 games they would have won.
Insane. It's insane. The show shows you that it's kind of like what you said before we started the season. It's like it's almost silly to try to predict wins and losses and who you're going to beat and who you're not going to beat, because here we are. These are not the 2 games. These are not the droids that you're looking for. These are not the games we thought we would win, and so that's kind of weird. I have to admit, John, I am still very pumped about beating the Eagles, but after that, I'm also a little bummed that we let the game get away from us against Dallas and a game against the Saints, with the understanding that if we had won those games, would the quarterback switch have been made? I don't know. So maybe it was better we won. Again, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but the transition to Dart was a little bit weird when Dable came out and said, me. This is my decision. This is nobody else's decision. And I don't know if that was posturing. I don't know if that was real. Like he was the one who was sticking his neck out. And if that's the case, then maybe he didn't have enough slack to make the quarterback switch unless they had lost those games. I don't know, but I find myself going, damn it, we should have beaten the Cowboys and we should have beaten the Saints. We should be 4-2 and actually in first place in the NFC East, tied with the Eagles right now, which is damn scary.
It's crazy that you say that. And I always like to look at, well, if this happened or this going forward, and let's look at some of these other things. But I'm right there with you. So I'm going to pose this. I'm going to say this statement, and you tell me whether, and again, neither one of us can definitively say it's true or not true.
Right.
But tell me if you think there's probably more truth than not truth to it. If Andrew Thomas had not been injured and had started game 1, would Jaxson Dart have been the starter week 1?
Oh, I know you think that. I don't know. You've said that for a couple of podcasts in a row, and I don't discount what you're saying. I don't know. That's what I was trying to get at. I don't know. Do you get the sense that there's like a power
like a struggle, like a little,
struggle.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Yeah, or John Ritter again. Here we go. You're finishing my sentence. Keep doing that, John, tonight. By the way, I sense based on that thing that happened with Dart and the me that there's some power issues going on here. I don't know. Again, maybe we were told by some posters don't speculate. Sorry, we're going to speculate. So if I still think Dable wanted Dart to start the opening game,
Yes.
regardless of who was playing on the offensive line. Is somebody in the organization above him saying no until Andrew Thomas came back? That's what you're asking. I don't know. I don't know. I don't. So I flip a coin. I have no idea. I know what you think. You think it's a big factor.
Well, I mean, when we went into the season and you and I were breaking it down, one of the things we talked about as the cuts came through and the roster was being established, that I thought it was definitively clear that Dart was the 2. You thought that might not be true yet. We don't know that. It might be Winston. They might want to keep him. And I kind of felt like, I think the way they played him in the summer, the way Dayball keeps talking about him, he wants him to. I'm getting the feeling now that Dayball wanted him to start from day one. He wanted and he's been saying things and doing things, and we will touch on that briefly too in a minute. He's been saying things and doing things that really just, it makes it so clear. It's almost so too clear that there is really no other, like, I don't know how you continue to carry Russell Wilson on the team, knowing how badly that Dayball wanted it to be Dart. And I don't think Dayball really, even to be quite frank, I don't think he's a big Wilson fan, to be honest. I think he'd be fine if Winston was the backup. I'm almost feeling like he's forced to do it. I have no proof of that,
right.
But it just seems like if they could, I think if Dayball could, he would have never even added Wilson to the equation. But as you and I both know, they did not know for sure they were going to have Dart. In fact, I think there were people in the organization that were leaning towards Sanders or other at the time, that Dart was Dayball's guy.
Yeah. And William Downs, maybe power struggle is the wrong phrase. I just am still stuck on the repeatedly Dayball saying in that press conference, this is my decision. The reporters would come back and say, wait a minute. Don't you mean collaborative effort? Because that's, again, they've always said that. Shane and Dable always say, we work together in peace and harmony to fix all the world's problems together. They've said that. Their predecessor said that. So when he came out and said that, even the reporters were trying to like guide him back to, wait, you're getting off the reservation a little bit here. Don't you mean collaborative effort? And he was like, no, this is my decision. I thought that was very weird. And it obviously was the right decision, but it almost was like Dable telling us, I don't know any other reason why he would do it, almost telling us that this was, he's sticking his neck out on this, nobody else is. So maybe power struggle is the wrong thing, but it suggested to me that they're not on the same page with this. And again, regardless of what you feel about Dable, you might hate his guts. I think he's the one who got Dart.
Agreed.
I think he's the one who wanted Dart to start sooner than later. And both of those were the correct decisions so far. Again, things can change in the last 12 weeks. We don't know. We're going to talk about that tonight. Things can change. But right now, it looks like Dable, thank goodness Dable was here to get Dart and to play him sooner. So that's where I am right now. I just find the wording very suspicious. I don't want to harp too much on it, but I was responding to your question, John. I don't know if Andrew Thomas would have mattered if Dable was calling the shots.
Well, that's a good point. That is you know what's interesting too is Dayball doubled down on it. Even after it was already done, he brought it up again. This was my choice, and I almost wonder if it's also part of he knows now. To give credit to you, you put together I think was it a game preview, or certainly it was a piece that you did right after the announcement came out, and you basically called Dart. This is Superman for David. Right. He is counting on Dart to be Superman, and I'm beginning to think that that's part of what he's trying to say. This was my choice. And he's counting on it going well. That's the other part. This is my choice. If it goes well, you've got really no reason to not bring me back. Like, even if they're like 5 wins, 6 wins, but it looks good, like you could see that we've got the makings of a guy going forward, that's Dayball. And I think he Jim Fossiled it. He put all his cards, all his chips to the middle of the table, and he said, "This is my guy."
Yes, and look, it's going to sound like I'm reading the comments, guys.
Yeah, no, and I was going to comment on that.
I'm seeing your comments, and I'm not disagreeing with you guys. And it's going to sound like I'm now in Dayball's corner, and I'm against Shane. And there are probably other times when we've done podcasts and it sounds the other way. And there's probably times when John and I are like, get rid of both of them, or both are doing great.
Sure.
However, right now on October 13th, it looks like Shane's wasted a lot of money on a lot of people. Like James Hudson, that looks like a wasted contract right now. Again, now some of this was they had to do stuff in free agency. They didn't know they were going to get Marcus Bowe. They didn't know they were going to get Jaxson Dart. So, but you're talking about Wilson here. You're talking about James Hudson. You're talking about the contract, the $36 million they gave to Darius Slayton. We could go down the list. There's a bunch of guys that they signed, and some of these contracts are not looking so good. Again, but there are contracts in previous years and the current year that, like Brian Burns was a good trade for them, and to sign him to that contract. That's worked out well for the Giants. So, but right now, if there is a bit of a head-to-head and they're both trying to go, like, I'll give you another thing. Remember after the Giants beat the Eagles and the Giants put out the clip of
Dayball in the locker room?
Dayball in the locker room.
Yes.
And at the end, he gives the game ball to John Mara. And my wife didn't know all the stuff with the cancer and all that. So pardon her comment here, but she wasn't really paying attention. She watches this stuff, but it's like she's on her phone and she heard that and she goes, "Kiss ass." She goes, and I'm thinking that I'm like, this sounds awful. Was that partially due to basically curry some favor with John Mara too? I don't know. Did
you see the full clip? Did you see John Mara talk afterwards?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The original tweet did not have the end.
Right.
But when they put out the full, and I'm telling people this in case they haven't seen it, if you watch the full Sights and Sounds video, John Mara has extended comments after that, which are better. It makes the whole clip better. Yes. I wanted to explain that to people who might not have seen it. Sorry.
Yep. No, I agree. And I think that clip alone, it did look that way. It was kind of weird. It was kind of, if you didn't know, you're just like, oh, this guy thought he was in trouble with his job. And he's like, oh, here's the owner. But when you see the rest of it, when John Mara actually speaks of chemo and radiation and stuff he's dealing with, that's a really tough here, but it's also now you understand what Dayball's saying.
Right.
The thing is to say something for Shane that I'm going to give him a little bit of credit for, or more of a pass than credit. Keep in mind Russell Wilson, which I don't really understand why they signed two veteran quarterbacks. Like I think one, you could have kept Tommy DeVito, Winston DeVito, and then draft a guy. And really, the third quarterback, once you're to three, your season's over anyway. So you could have done that, but they went two veterans. They didn't know they were going to get the guy they were going to get. So that I'll give them that. The second part is you signed James Hudson. That was also before the draft.
Right.
You didn't know you'd get Marcus Bowe later, and he'd be as good as he's been, which, again, it's not that he doesn't have a lot to improve on, but if they had to throw him in and play right now, they would get equal to what they signed a free agent for. They would easily get equal to that, if not better.
Yeah, well, James Hudson was inactive in the Eagles game. He was
that was a little – that was telling. But we're also juggling roster spots too at that point. I think more telling is the fact that Evan Neal is a guy that I don't know why we're even carrying him, period.
Like Dan Duggan just tweeted out just a few minutes ago that Izudu is good enough to start practicing again, but they may not be able to bring him back because of the roster juggling they're still doing right now.
Right.
So if those who are wondering where the heck is Josh, sounds like Josh can practice, but they may start the clock this week, but it depends on who's hurt. And so we have a lot of injuries at linebacker still.
How does that
receiver, obviously? How
does that work? And I wish I should know this and I don't. How does that work with IR versus PUP list? Does he have to start a particular clock just being on IR?
Yeah, I think he start. I think again.
Is it once you start practicing?
Fact check me, but I think once he starts practicing, he's got 3 weeks to come onto the roster or they've got to permanently IR him.
But they don't have to start practicing him right now, though.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, so they can. That's what Dan Duggan was saying. But Dan Duggan was also saying he could see him come back this week. It just depends. Because remember, we don't know the status of Darius Slayton. I was going to say Alexander. Darius Slayton yet. We don't know if he's going to be available. So they got issues at wide receiver still. And they've got real issues at inside linebacker there are a lot of people, these names that people aren't even familiar with. Even the guys that they're bringing on board keep getting hurt. So they signed another linebacker today to the practice squad because they're running out of linebackers again. Not outside, inside linebackers. But they keep losing an inside linebacker each work. And that Flanagan Foles keeps coming back to practice, keeps getting hurt, and then he's out. So I mean, he's hardly even taken a practice snap since they signed him. So.
I heard there was a cold running through the wide receiver group, but luckily Slayton didn't catch it.
Yeah. Well, everyone's on his case right now.
Oh, come on, dude! I set that up. Anyway, all right, you didn't catch it.
No, I caught it. I
got it. Damn it! All right. Anyway, but so you have to. I think you got to give Shane a little bit of credit. Quite frankly, this draft class is looking pretty good. It could be a cornerstone. Like, think of it this way: if Shane stays, right, if this progresses forward, if Dart continues, and let's say this group, but at least let's just look at Shane. If Shane stays, this draft class is a borderline 86, 89. I'm trying to think of another one, maybe 2004 type draft class where you have a number of guys who become major contributors, build around guys that you formed. Like 86, it backfilled the defense. You got Collins, Pepper Johnson, John Washington. I mean, that Eric Dorsey for a while. I mean, that loaded that. 89, that 89 draft, that got you Meggett, it got you Bob Cratch, it got you Howard Cross. Jackson Guyton. It nailed a bunch of guys. 2004 gets you Eli, gets you Snead, gets you a couple other players. This draft, if it continues to go, it gets you your franchise quarterback. It gets you a stud contributing running back, whether you go committee or he's the full-time back, we'll see down the road. It gets you a potential offensive lineman who's going to move in and become a starter. There's a lot to be said.
Don't forget.
And then I'm leaving out Carter, and there you go. So it's a huge draft.
Better than any of those drafts, John, because the drafts that you're mentioning and other people are mentioning the 84 draft and I'm trying to bring it up. It's not coming up. But name a draft where they got their franchise quarterback plus those other players. I mean, so 79 was Sims. I don't think the rest of that draft.
There was nothing really there.
And then the Eli Manning draft, they had to give away.
But you got Chris Snee. You got Chris Snee in that draft.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. I mean, hopefully, Abdul Carter is. I saw a number of really disappointing posts in the forum after the Eagles game and people complaining about Abdul Carter, and I'm like, guys, if you've seen him play, he doesn't have the stats, but he's like all around the damn ball all the time. It'll come, and he's not. I had a Penn State fan ask me how Abdul Carter was doing today, and what I told him was, I said he looks everything like we hoped he would be. He just isn't racking up the stats right now. And he understood what I was saying. I said, I mentioned the Chargers game again. I said, in 35 snaps, he had 8 pressures and hit the quarterback 5 times. So, I mean, that stuff will come. But so if you can get your franchise quarterback, a core, like difference-making defensive player, your starting running back, maybe a starting tackle, Darius Alexander starting to play. We haven't still seen Fedoni. I mean, it's really a really good draft. So, and again, Shane had to manipulate to get up. He didn't panic and go above Pittsburgh to get Dart.
Right.
But he didn't sit there either, because Dart might have gone between us and the second round. And the rest of the draft was really solid. Now, to be fair, I mean, yeah, I still have to do it, but you and I were like, draft Skattebo, draft Alexander, draft Marcus Bo. Even all Giants fans, when the Bo was still on the board, were like, draft. So some of it was luck too. And it was this thing, but you still have to go and do it. You don't do something stupid. And they didn't.
Yeah, it's funny because you and I talked about this. The one thing that we noticed if you took anything from Hard Knocks that was in favor of the Giants was the way that they went about their draft preparation. Now you can be pissed about Evan Neal just like I am and Eric is and whatever, but most of that falls on Evan Neal. Because quite frankly, everybody else in the league had Evan Neal rated very high. We know the Cowboys had him as the best offensive lineman coming out. It was on their board. They really were interested in him. But if you look at the way he nailed the draft the year before, he pegged where guys were going to go. He had a really good feel. Now, did we overdo some things on guys that maybe they fit for the Giants, but didn't fit what the Giants are doing? Sure, you could say that about Jalen Hyatt. You could say that about Deonte Banks. But at the time, Wink Martindale wanted Deonte Banks. The Giants went out and got him, and that's history is what it is. But this draft, the way that it went. When you see the behind the scenes stuff, because we were doing the draft live, which was so much fun, so many people were involved. When we were doing it live, we kept going, God, this team's a quarterback needy team. Is this where Shedeur goes? We didn't know, and neither did anybody else know that Shedeur Sanders was going to drop through the floor all the way to the 5th round. When the teams are started to go, the Giants could have panicked. So all this talk that Shane shops hungry, that came up today, and he panics. He could have jumped all the way, way up. He could have jumped up to 9, 12, 15 to try to get the quarterback then, but he didn't. He kind of held on, and you kept saying, I don't want to give up this particular pick.
I didn't want to give up the 3rd round pick. The first 3rd round pick.
Right. And to give up the pick that we did to move up, and then next year's 3rd that we gave up, that was not that big of a deal. That was not. That's
and in hindsight, holy crap.
Well, now, yes. Who knew, right? Like at the time, though, we were like,
I said it earlier today. If you held the draft today, Jaxson Dart might be the first player taken.
When you listen to what some of the guys say, like some of the media guys. Now, again, I don't like to jump on the media people because they tend to do whatever is the flavor of the moment kind of deal. But to hear them talk about the Giants, it's different. When the Giants would win games with Daniel Jones, they were not excited in any way whatsoever. They didn't talk about it. Was almost like, hey, they won, but this is different. It's not just that they're winning. These guys are propelling the wins.
Let's hold off. We got 2 wins. So
no. But you can be honest though. If you put Russell Wilson in for those 2 games, we're not winning either one of those.
No. But what I'm just saying again, because you're right. Because I went to my physical therapist today, and he's like, "Holy crap, the Giants!" And I'm like, "It's 1 win in a row. We got 1 game, and everyone."
Sure.
I said, and we got the Broncos and the Eagles coming up again in Philadelphia, and Jalen Carter's going to be back. I said, let's tap on the brakes a little bit here too, because we might be having a whole different. I don't want to rain on your parade, John, but I'm not racking up the wins.
But my point isn't necessarily to say that's a predictive of what's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's a definitive statement of what did happen.
Right.
They were propelling the wins. Art Skattebo, that energy, what they did, that's how the Giants won those games because they're a different team. They play different. They seem different. They're about each other. Now, one of the good things about 22 is different. 22 is as close to as much as we loved it. And I know Eric sometimes thinks I'm negative. I'm not negative on it. It's just I can honestly admit now that a lot of it was smoke and mirrors early on. The back half of the season, we struggled through. We won enough to get in. We won against the Vikings, which kind of, again, continued the smoke and mirror look that I think affected the organization, specifically ownership in this case, I think, for the reasons we've talked about before. In this particular case, it's not smoke and mirrors. The Giants beat the Eagles completely understaffed at wide receiver.
Yeah.
The Eagles are coming off a loss with everything that they need to kind of turn shit around in that night.
Right.
They're already struggling in wins. They had already struggled. They've been taking criticism. This is their beat up team. This is the team that they normally beat on.
The get right team for everybody was the Giants.
And the Giants beat up on them. They inflicted their will. The last half of the game was about the Giants stepping on them, and for the first time we saw they didn't let up. Yeah. Normally something happens, we go, crap, here we go.
My
Never happened.
son was watching a game, and remember I told you, I said, did you start getting nervous when the Eagles scored 2 touchdowns?
Yeah.
He turned it off because he's in the Army. He had to get up at like 5 a.m. the next day. He was like, they're not going to win this game. Here we go again. And he said he got up and he was like, holy crap. He goes, what happened? And there was somebody in the national media that said the same thing, that they were someplace else and they checked the score, and he was like, what the hell is going on in the Meadowlands? They were like, what, and I said to my son after he got here, and because he wanted to see what happened, he wanted to see the rest of the game. I said, before he did, I said, they beat the crap out of the Eagles up front and just took the will out of them. I said, I can't remember the last time as a Giants fan that we owned the Eagles on the line of scrimmage. And that's what we did. And it was so awesome that, again, that last 6 minutes of the game in particular was just like they sucked the life out of them. And it was. I do want to say one before I forget.
Yeah.
You mentioned the media. There is one media thing that's starting to piss me off a little bit. So I'm seeing a lot of media people now starting to say, why didn't the Giants start Jaxson Dart sooner? They should have started Jaxson Dart sooner. That's all fine and good, except they're the exact same people
who said no. Yeah.
Who said a month to 2 months ago, don't you dare start Jaxson Dart until the end of this year or even next year.
Yeah, he's not ready.
And it's the same people, except for 1 or 2 pundits out there. I think Rex Ryan was one of the ones who said start Dart now. I think there was another guy that I can't remember his name right now. But most of these same people who said, what are the Giants doing? Why didn't they start Dart? Were the same blankers that were saying, don't you dare start him. So anyways, I
totally agree. The way to never be wrong is always jump on whatever's happening and say, why didn't you do that before? Even though you were against it. It's like the same people who talk about, oh, Daniel Jones got away. Look at him. Why did you let him go? I'm like, you're
making fun of him. You think you were making fun of Daniel Jones? The same people that are saying the Giants screwed that up, we're the ones laughing at him.
You're the same people who accuse him of being racist for not drafting Dwayne Haskins. So please, let's not do that. This thing right here, it's in AF Giants fan. I see what you're saying. I'm actually not going to agree with that because I was fine with the Colts game. Eric knows this. I didn't care that it changed the draft position.
Right. It ended up.
And that's high, and you're right. In hindsight, that is. But
if the Giants lost the Colts game, our quarterback would be the Titans quarterback.
It's probably Cam Ward and no Abdul Carter. And who knows how the rest of the draft goes. The Saints game, though, I'll say this. I almost think it was a good thing that it happened. Partly because I think the Giants walked out of that game. You got a bunch of young guys, big heads, beat the Chargers, and they started off that game, bam, bam. 2 touchdowns right off. It's looking like, hot knife through butter. And then they struggled. But why I say I think it might be a good thing is what's come out since. And I don't know if you saw the ultimate report on it. So when the Giants had a players-only meeting, it was not a team players-only meeting. It was defense-only players meeting, where some of the players, while they didn't say who, basically said, and I think Brian Burns was one of the people that said it, we had them, and Tibbs was another one. We had a meeting where guys said, we're not calling people out, but we're telling people this is a man's sport, and you need to hear these things as a man, and these are things you need to be doing. And I suspect that part of that was Deonte Banks. It was probably directed at the defensive backs. It was probably directed at some of the guys, the linebackers and whatever, that we can't just live off from our names, our reputation. We've got to do something. And I think that might have galvanized this team, because the other part that came up was Thibodeau mentioned, and I don't know if you saw it today, that Bowen has been willing to listen to these guys about what they want to do. And you saw a little difference in that game after the Saints game, in the Eagles game. You saw them play a little differently. And I think it got to them that Spencer Rattler basically said they don't disguise anything. They're not overly complicated. And I think that pissed these guys off, and that they got Bowen to listen to it.
Do you feel like when we get money like this, which is cool, that we're like strippers and that we're getting bills put in our garter? That's what I feel like, right?
I actually think If you knew how much work behind the scenes sometimes goes into a lot of this stuff.
No, we need
No,
to buy. We need the money to buy beer.
And I really do appreciate that. I
We
juggle a full.
appreciate you because you just bought us a round of beer for us to be able to.
Please do not be stripper.
Like
you do not want me to be a stripper.
Well, did you ever see Kingpin? It could be like the Amish guy.
Nice.
Nice.
Anyway. So, obviously, we're still in a joyful mood.
Yes, we are in a very joyful mood. Screw the Eagles.
DQ.
I hate the Eagles. I could tell you guys stories after story of me having confrontations with Eagle fans. I hate Eagle fans.
Oh, no,
I hate the Eagles, and I don't.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
So with that, real quick, because I want to keep it tight. You've got other stuff to do, and we're half hour in. Monday night games are coming up tonight. Before I move on to looking forward, was there anything from what has happened that surprised you in a way that you thought it would be better and it wasn't? And then obviously, I think the other way is too obvious. Dart coming in has been much better than we could have possibly anticipated. But was there something else you thought was going to happen that just didn't?
The secondary I thought would be way better than it's been playing.
Agreed.
I'm very disappointed with that. Somebody asked earlier, is Paulson Adebo a bust? No, but he's not playing up to his contract right now. Cordell Flott has won the other starting spot and has played fairly well. We've talked about our nickel corner being Andrew Phillips sort of being really good or really having struggles, and the safeties just need to make more plays. Now, it's mainly Tyler Newman at this point because the other safety's starting to play well, and Dane Belton's just got a way of being around turnovers or causing turnovers or getting them.
Yes.
He's a nice guy to be in there, but I just thought the secondary would be playing better. You mentioned the players only meeting. I'm a little concerned that the defensive player, Dexter Lawrence, said they had to go to Shane Bowen and say, we got to be more aggressive. And to his credit, they're allowing him. But again, I still get the sense that Shane Bowen's over his head. And that makes me nervous. And we'll talk about that more as we move ahead. But
sure.
I thought the defense, I think the edge rushers are playing as well as I had hoped. Dexter's not up to snuff right yet. Darius Alexander's starting to play better.
Yes.
It's Bobby Okereke is not rebounding the way we had hoped. And it's probably going to be a salary cap casualty, I would assume, in the offseason. So I would say Bobby Okereke and and we lost McFadden. So I would say the back seven, I wanted them to play better. On offense, losing Malik Neighbors is really going to hurt us. If Malik Neighbors was on his team and healthy right now, I'd like our chances maybe based on what the Eagles are playing like right now.
Well, it's for focus.
Our secondary, our wide receivers suck, John.
No. That's not what I mean.
Really good, but our wide receivers suck.
I mean, let's focus because there are things to think about. So with that being said, real quick for me, the disappointing. I'm with you. The secondary definitely I thought would be better. The other part is I actually thought we would take one, if not both, of the first two games. I thought they would come out, and Dallas is ripe for the picking, and it still shows that way. I don't care what anybody says about their offense. Their defense is so bad they let the Jets score 20+ points on them. Carolina came back and went right through them and won. A little tiny Bryce Young was chewing them up. I think you're going to see Dallas is in a really tough position, and we're gonna look at that in a second. I was disappointed with that part of it. The other part that I was a little bit disappointed in is the fact that the Giants receiving core, I thought with Neighbors right away, I thought would really kind of take off with Wilson. And we only saw a glimpse of it in the Dallas game. But the problem is everybody does that.
Everybody does that against Dallas.
Washington, Kansas City, it was nothing. And that led to Dart coming in. So everything's changed. So it's kind of hard to judge. Was it the receiving core or was it the other stuff? So nice. There you go. So with that, I wanted to break this down into thirds. There are 18 weeks in an NFL season, 17 total games. So 6 weeks at a time. We've gone through 6 weeks. The Giants are 2-4. So let's just take a quick look. This is where we are at division-wise, the records of the other teams, and the games that are coming up. I'm going to give you a scenario, and it just don't shit on it in terms of it's just a scenario. I'm not saying it will happen. But here's a funny thing.
Can I just say one thing first? I'm going to interrupt
Absolutely.
you. And
No,
people, I'm
please.
sorry, I interrupt John. John and I talked about this ahead of time. We interrupt each other. I'm the worst at it, but we've given each other's blessings that we can do this. We just talked about the fact that we can't pick these games worth a damn.
That's right. Absolutely.
So you're saying we're gonna try to pick these games?
No. I'm just laying out. I'm
Okay.
letting you see what the schedules are for each of
Okay.
these teams coming up. And again, I like when people say brutal schedule. I don't see that. And here's why. Let's just stick to the Giants first, but then I'm going to give you a scenario that's gonna just totally knock you off your socks here. So the Giants right now, we get Denver. Denver's coming off a big win against Philadelphia. Then they go overseas. They play a tough, emotional game against a shitty Jets team. It's so shitty. The Jets scored 11 points. 6 of those points were generated with the ball already starting deep in Denver territory. So they literally got 2 field goals from not even moving. Now Denver has to come back. They've been gone. By the way, they left immediately after the Philadelphia game to go overseas.
Right.
So they've been overseas. Now they're going to come back, and now the Giants have 10 days of rest.
Yeah.
If you're going to beat a team on the road in their stadium and a decent team, this is the week for the Giants to do it. So I don't think it's as brutal as it could have been. This is more in the Giants' favor based on this. You got to play the game. You got to win the game.
Agreed. The only thing that it sucks is it's in Denver, but Denver's going to be very tired. Should be very tired with all that traveling, and they did not take the bye after the Europe game, which a lot of teams do. So they're going to be tired. So
exactly. So again,
I want to just remember. I know everyone's super excited. We put 34 points up against the Eagles. I still don't know how we did that with little Jordan Humphrey and Jalen Hyatt out there along with Wandale. I mean, I still have a hard time thinking, but I won't be too negative. I'm just saying,
no.
Look,
again, you're right. You're not wrong, right? You're not wrong. And
Denver's secondary is damn good. There's no way they're looking. And Lil Jordan's going back to Denver, so maybe he'll be inspired to say, "Hey, this is what you."
But I'll tell you what, they're living off their pass rush. Mm-hmm. That secondary has been able to take advantage of their pass rush, but they played some teams that just have not done it. By the way, they trailed Philadelphia by 14 points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
Philadelphia collapsed in that game. Denver's off, and by the way, the Jets offense did nothing, absolutely nothing against Denver's defense. Denver scored a grand total of 13 points.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So I'm not overly concerned. And Paul's one of my favorite people in chat. I can't tell if he's supportive or if he absolutely hates me. It bounces back and forth all the time. He's constantly making fun of my old Daniel Jones jerseys. He's now telling me about I'm rationalizing it. All I'm laying out is the way the schedule is and why it actually is more in favor for the Giants than it would have been if Denver had just played at home or on the road in the U.S., then that whole thing goes away. But this is no different than a West Coast team traveling to the East Coast at 1:00. There is historical data to show they struggle when they do that. Teams that come back from Europe struggle if they play that next week. The Giants need to take advantage of that. That being said,
and John put this damn chart together. This took time and effort, and God darn it, we're going to go through.
So give me a minute. So here's the thing that's going to knock your socks off. Again, this is just shits and giggles. It's all for fun. If Philadelphia loses to Minnesota, if the Giants beat Denver, if Dallas beats Washington, the following week the Giants beat the Eagles, Kansas City beats Washington, and Denver beats Dallas, the New York Giants are in first place in the NFC East. Just put that in your hat. That's how funny and how weird this is, right?
You're not wrong to start thinking things like that, but I learned a long time ago that once you start doing that, you're going to disappoint yourself. So
no. I'm not saying it's going to happen.
I don't know who the Giants are.
I know where you're superstitious. What I am saying is this is no different than 2020. I think Philadelphia is extremely overrated based on how much they have struggled, even in the games that they've won. And they are a powder keg internally. There's a lot of shit going on there that they're potentially going to explode. The Dallas and Washington, they've got tough schedules, and they're not exact. Dallas is horrible on defense. They're absolutely – the Giants should have beaten them. Green Bay should have beaten them.
Who's Washington playing tonight?
Washington plays Chicago tonight. So that's where the little asterisk is there.
Yeah,
so if and I left that part out. Washington would need to lose to Chicago tonight to make that scenario run through. But it's just
I don't know what to make of Washington yet. Washington's been kind of like.
Well, here's the thing with Washington. McLaurin's out. I think the Noah Brown is out. Deebo Samuel is questionable for tonight. They are going to be absolutely empty at the receiving corps tonight playing the Bears. So
Right.
it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But my point to all of this is that there's a lot to be played for going forward. The thing that Jaxson Dart has done is it's changed where the Giants are thinking. They bring a different piece to these teams. Russell Wilson was a stationary guy in the backfield. He could move a little bit, but he was not going to get you out of trouble. Rushes were going to end him very quickly. Teams have to be very careful about rushing Dart. If you come in too heavy, Dart's going to get away from you, and that is a big problem for defenses. That helps the Giants. There's a lot to be played now, so my point is the first 6 games of the season, the record could have been better. It isn't, but it could have been. The Giants need it to be better in this 6 and then the last 6.
I'm ribbing you here. I'm having
I know you are.
Rib you here. Nothing you said is incorrect. And there is an opportunity here, and that's why I said earlier, damn it, why did we lose the Cowboys game? Why did we lose the Saints game? So I'm just not allowing myself, because I've been beat up so long, to get there. Let's see. If Jaxson Dart and Skattebo and the defense go into Denver and beat up on Denver, then you're going to
just win. Let's go with just win. They don't have to beat up on them.
But you're going to start seeing me get like a little bit more. But I've got to see it first. So,
well, I understand it, and I'm not predicting that it will. What I am is laying out how things could go if they are going to turn things around. Some of these have to. Now, first off, the Giants can't go 2-4 on this next set, or you're basically you're kind of just looking for improvement in the last 6 weeks, which is 5 games in the last 6 weeks.
Right.
They've got to go at least 3-3 and more likely 4-2 to really say things are legitimately turned around. The reason I wanted to put this up here, though, is just look at some of the way this goes. The Giants play Detroit is the bottom of this next 6-week stretch, right? But look at how Detroit goes. They play Washington, then they play Philadelphia, then they play us. I'm not sure if the NFL did shit like that on purpose. It's weird how it's worked out, but if you look at the Green Bay Detroit combo, Green Bay plays Philadelphia, Green Bay plays the Giants, all clustered together. Detroit plays all 3 of these guys in a row, so they're getting us on the back end of that. So there's a lot of how this works, and like I said, when you brought up how tough the schedule was at the beginning of the year, I said schedule to me doesn't mean a whole lot because it's based on last year. B, it's also who you play and when you play them, and who they play before and who they play after. The Giants have to just focus on themselves. So that part you can't control. You control only who you play. But some of these other teams, again, the Giants still are not on anybody's radar as far as this is a team that we've amped up for. Philadelphia has, they have big things with Green Bay. They have big things with Detroit. They have big things with Dallas. Washington, they've got big things with Dallas. Mm-hmm. They're going to want Detroit. They from the playoffs. Detroit's going to want them. So there's stuff there. Kansas City. Nobody's looking at the Giants going, I can't wait to play the Giants because we hate them so much. It's more like that's a win for us, and I think it's going to bite some of these teams.
Yeah. Again, I'm not disagreeing with anything that you're saying. I'm just
I'm
going week by week. I'm going to go week by week, and right now I'm Denver, and then to me, and the only thing I've looked ahead to, and I started earlier, is I think it's going to be fascinating to see how Philadelphia and the Giants play the second game. Was that first game an aberration and the Eagles are going to be like bitch slap us? Or was that first game an indication that things are starting to turn in the NFC East for both teams? So that's the only one that I've sort of allowed myself to look ahead to right now, because I think that game is going to be fascinating from both the Eagles' perspective and the Giants' perspective. And the one thing I'm going to repeat myself, because you repeated yourself about the Eagles being in trouble.
Sure. Yeah.
I've gone year after year after year. I thought that the Eagles were dead, and they come back to life and they go on a run, and it pisses me off to no end. And I've said I'm not going to allow myself to the right. You have. It's almost like a vampire. You got to put a stake in their heart.
Oh, I agree.
You know, get the garlic and.
By the way, speaking of hating the Eagles, I have never seen, and you tell me if you've ever seen this. I have never seen the security guy for the coach or some of the players who's on the sidelines and stuff. I have never seen him walk out into the middle of the field and start shaking the quarterback's hand for the other team. But that idiot Dom guy for the Eagles was out there going up to Dart and shaking hands. I'm like, who the F are you? Yeah. You are the security. Get the hell off the field. Like, what the hell's your problem? When did this guy become so important?
Quarterback. No.
Yeah, like when did you become so important? You
get your hands off our quarterback,
self-entitled asshole. I'm like, get out of here. So it's just weird. A couple things though. Let's focus real quick. So we're gonna keep this very tight.
Yeah.
Do you think the Giants are or are not going to make a move with another team for a wide receiver?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. And I keep seeing everybody is equally frustrated as I am right now with the situation. And the problem is this. The Giants already don't have their third. And that's a huge deal. And there are a number of wide receivers in this upcoming draft. It's not as deep as a lot of other drafts, but there are some guys that I'm really like, oh, wow, I'd really like him on the Giants. And of course, I want to get an offensive lineman in the next draft, and I want to get another corner. And so we already don't have our third round pick. So I look at these scenarios where people say, get Olave from the Saints, who's one concussion away from being done. And I'm like, we're not really going to go on a Super Bowl run this year. So do we really want to give up the pick that we could have used on a wide receiver that we lock into a 4-year contract? So I know everyone's frustrated. I just don't see it. And I don't see anybody on a roster other than but he's looked so terrible in his last game. I don't know who would trade for him. Wilson, like you said, I would get rid of Wilson at this point. And if they want to take Evan Neal off our hands and Jalen Hyatt off our hands on top of that, but who wants our garbage? So I don't know why. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't know how you would do that. It is interesting. We talked about the last show, Antoine Wells. Juice Wells is back. They just signed him. So I don't know if you saw that. So he's on the practice squad. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in a game sooner than later, because Dart and him, it's not that he's good, but Dart's at a comfort level. And then one of the announcers was it an announcer or a commentator? No, it was a commentator this week, was bright enough to mention that the reason why Dart is looking to little Jordan Humphrey so much is they were on the same team together in training camp. They were practiced on the second team together. He's comfortable with him, and Dart's comfortable with Juice Wells. So that's why I wouldn't be surprised if if he got activated at that point. I mean, John, who's out there that you would get?
Well, a good question, but you said something that I think is important. If I go get somebody, I don't want to retread on his last legs. And I don't want a 1-year rental because that does me no good. If I go get somebody, I want him under contract for a couple of years, number one. Number two, there is another reason why you would do it. If Dart is going to be your franchise guy, the only way he's really going to develop is I got to give him some weapons right now. Right. And that might make sense. Now, Olave scares me because of the concussion thing. That's a big deal. I don't care about I don't care about the cost. It's the fact that I'm buying damaged goods that could be at any moment his career could be over because he's had so many concussions. It's not one or two, and you're like, well, okay, that's that's. But
to get somebody like him, you're giving up your second round draft pick, and
I'm not worried about that. If it's a guy that I'm going to build around, if it's a guy I'm going to build around with neighbors going forward, then I don't need to worry about that per se. But I hear you.
I'm not. What if
Jalen Waddle?
If another team is trading away a wide receiver,
why would they do that?
Why would they be trading guy away?
Because they're a team that's falling apart. Number one, Miami. Jalen Waddle, I would definitely look into. Miami's gonna tear that shit down. That whole thing is gonna be torn apart. Jalen Waddle would be one.
That'd be interesting.
That I would look to. Baltimore is another one. If they think they can come back, now it's not as big of a deal, so don't compare the two. But a Bateman, if I could get him fairly cheaply, like maybe I send them Evan Neal and you send me Rashad Bateman and a pick, because they've got injuries in a number of spots. Their defense is depleted. Their offensive line's been a little banged up, and Jackson's hurt. But they're at a point now that another loss or two and their season's over. There's really no need.
Oh, they're over. I watched that game this weekend. How the hell did the Giants lose to Cooper Rush twice? He was horrible in that game. How did we lose to Cooper Rush?
I don't know, but
I can't even throw the football 10 yards downfield, and we lost to him.
The other,
I'm watching a game, and I'm going, anyways.
The other team I would look at is the Bengals. If they lose again, and they've got Joe Flacco now quarterback, but if they lose again, they're going to be out of it. They've got 3 players under massive contracts: Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. Andre Yoshivas is a guy, he had a couple of drops in his past game, but I think he's a guy who could stand out. He's got some decent size. He's got some speed. And I think if you put him with some other players around him where he's lost behind those other guys. They're the main stars. But if you put him here and he can be a little bit more of a focal point, I think it opens some stuff up. It gives him a chance to develop. He's young and he'll be cheap. So that's another guy that I look at. You're not going to get necessarily a huge star, but you might get a guy in the making. Now the Chargers come to mind, but who would you want from that team? I don't want the guy that Dart played with in college, because he's not really proven anything yet. And what am I bringing to the team here unless I get him cheap? If you want to go Neal for that guy, great, let's do it. But other than that, I'm not giving picks.
You mean the guy they just drafted?
Yeah.
If they were to move, they're not going to trade him.
But they're not going to trade Johnson. They won't trade, and we don't want Allen. So you would have to be something along those lines.
John, this is the frustrating part. So you're correct in the sense that they want to get Dart better weapons to help develop him. You're completely correct about that. However, we just saw what the Giants can do when they have a full slew of draft picks, when they got what they did in the last draft and what they did in the draft before. I don't even want to get rid of any of the draft picks. So I hate to say it, I'm not trading picks. I'm trading maybe a player, and I don't think we're going to get anybody for player. I like the idea, and I don't know why they don't do this more. God, I can't find a con.
But don't forget that Daboll has to win, though. That's the other part. You don't forget that. He's got to win.
Yeah, but Daboll's not trying to trade Joe Schoen.
I understand that, but I think that looks good for Schoen as well. If they win, if they start losing, you potentially, if they lose 3, 4, 5 games in a row, you potentially negatively affect Jaxson Dart.
Right, but you're shopping hungry at the same time too.
I don't believe in the shopping hungry thing, because no one shops for anything when they're not hungry. No one goes out looking for a linebacker when they don't freaking need one. That's ridiculous. That statement is used by too many people who think that they can throw that. I know, but too many people throw it around that makes them think. That
I can't find the comment, but somebody mentioned it earlier. I apologize who made it. I don't know why we don't scour this practice squad of every team in the league, because there's got to be somebody on a practice squad that's better than what we've got right now. There's got to be. There's 31 other teams, and there are teams that have really good wide receivers. There's got to be somebody on somebody's practice squad that's better than some of the guys that we have.
Well, Treylon Burks, who was let go by the Titans, and he was still recovering from an injury, he's visiting the Broncos this week. Gabe Davis is still on the practice squad for the Bills, so either his knee is just not up to snuff, and tonight I haven't seen the inactives or actives. I don't know if Gabe Davis got activated or not. I don't think he did. But if he did, then it'd be something to see. But he hasn't played. Isaiah Hodgins is still on the practice squad of the Steelers. There are guys out there that way too. You are correct. They could go shopping that way.
And William Downs, I disagree with this. Marcus Bowe is a 5th-round draft pick. And there are a bunch of players. McFadden I think he's a 5th rounder. There are a lot of players on this team, this regime, whether you like Schoen or not, they've shown that they can get players in the draft that are in the 5th, 6th, 7th round that at least make the team for a while. So I've always had a problem with people who say that 5th, 6th, and 7th round picks are worthless. I don't think they're worthless at all. And I think this last draft proves it more than anything, that you can get our starting tackle next year might be Marcus Bowe, who is a 5th round draft pick. So I understand the sentiment, but people who start saying it's a fit, and that's one of the reasons, and John has said this for forever, one of the reasons you have to go out and sign so many damn free agents, even to 1-year contracts for $1.4 million or $2 million, is because you don't have enough fifth, sixth, and seventh round draft picks at the bottom of the roster who are dirt cheap. And then you have to, so John put up the salary cap. Oh no, it wasn't John, it was Optimus or someone. I think it was Optimus put up our salary cap figure that right now it's what, 1.5 million.
We were the last.
We're last right now, and we don't have an expensive quarterback on the roster. And the reason why we're dead last is our whole roster is filled up with free agents because we've blown so many draft picks over the years. So
and we do have some Daniel Jones money on there too. That
right. But why do the Eagles do this void year crap? I understand that too.
Yes.
But the Eagles every year seem to have like 12 draft picks. So many draft picks, they have to end up trading some of them away to next year, and they get more comp picks, and their roster is loaded with all these cheap players, and that's why they can do all this shit. So I know
No. So with that, you're not thinking that they'll go make a trade, or at least not a significant one, correct?
I'm not getting my hopes up.
Okay.
Part of the problem, John, is I don't. Anyone that is going to be, people are going to really disagree with me on this. Anyone that's probably going to be part of the future here won't be on the market. So, like, if we had somebody now, the Waddle thing was an interesting comment on your part. I didn't think about Waddle, but most of the guys out there, if they're going to be in the future for us, they would be in the future for somebody else too. So I would have a hard time saying, well, how would we get that guy, especially if we're not willing to part with our first or second round draft pick? How would we get, and I'm not giving up my second round draft pick in any circumstances at all, because there's a chance that second round pick is going to be a high. Like one of the receivers out there that might be at the top of the second round is Mekhi Lemon. If you've watched the USC this year and you've seen Mekhi Lemon, he's playing so well, he may not end up in the first round pick. He's more of a slot receiver. But if you don't like Wan'Dale, Mekhi Lemon is a stud. And you put him with Malik Neighbors and Theo Johnson and Skattebo, that's a holy shit moment. That's why I'm not giving up my second round draft pick, because I want a wide receiver out of the draft, not out of. If we could get Waddle, maybe I would look at that, but that's about it. So
the other thing so I'll disagree slightly. And here's because I think we have one thing that we can trade. Mm-hmm. You will not trade that person. I absolutely would trade them. You could give me a sandwich and a Coke, and I would trade that person right now. I would trade if someone needed a defensive back really badly. I would definitely trade Deonte Banks, and I wouldn't think twice about doing it.
If we could get something fair for him, I would. But I don't
for a receiver, for a team that needs a defensive back desperately. By the way, Detroit is in a lot of trouble right now in their secondary. Their secondary is decimated, and I don't know if you saw, but Brian Branch got suspended for a game for his fight last night with the Chiefs. So again, but I don't know that they have anything at wide receiver that other than their two starter guys. The rest of them are kind of like
I don't know the roster.
You wouldn't be able to add. There's nobody I would add. The one position I would consider though that don't discount the Giants making a move, and that's at linebacker. I think we're a little more thin than people really believe. The Giants are getting away with playing a safety a lot as that third safety and whatever. But if anything happens to Musau, if anything happens to Okereke, we're looking back to, I'm thinking, what year was it? 2005 when we made the playoffs and we had like 3 street free agent guys playing linebacker in the playoffs. That's kind of where you would be at linebacker if something happens. So don't be surprised if they look at that as well to possibly, if they feel they are turning the corner, winning games that they want to continue to stay competitive. But
at 2-4 with a brutal schedule coming up, I would wait on that.
I'm not saying it will, but the trade deadline is not till November, so there's time for things to happen.
It's not like we're adding Steve Diassi for a Super Bowl run here, John. So
he was a Plan B.
You got to trade a pick.
He was a Plan B free agent too, by the way. So
so we're going to have to do what they're doing right now and sign basically junk off the street right now inside linebacker until people start getting back. Some of these people will get back. I don't know how long McFadden's going to be out. We have another linebacker that, again, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. I don't know how long he's going to be out. They haven't put him on IR yet, so I don't know what they're, and supposedly really liked him when they signed him. So I guess what I'm saying is this is great that and this is the difference between you and me. You're thinking tweak this, tweak that. We got a chance here to stay in a playoff hunt. And I'm thinking that's not likely. And I'm not trying to give up picks right now because I want to use the next offseason to have another really good draft and then use that to put us over the top. I don't want to go into the draft with 3 or 4 or 5 picks and that's it. And then we're looking at everybody else who's got like 7 or 8 picks. And we're like, oh man, I don't want to do that.
Yep. So so I don't always just say I'm right and toot my horn. Optimus corrected me. We did acquire Diassi via trade with the Cowboys. Everson Walls was the Plan B free agent in '90. So thank you, Optimus, for pointing out. I'm really mad at myself. 50 lashes for that one. I can't believe I got something wrong from the '80s. But anyway,
what looked like a bad trade at the time was when we traded for O.J. Anderson. At the time,
that was the '86.
Because it was a second round draft pick, and he didn't play for like a couple of years.
I mean, he got the token handoff in the Super Bowl that kind of he thought that was going to be it
for him, and
didn't do it much in '87.
Nope.
88, he was the short yardage guy with Morris. Morris had 1,000, but it was a struggle all year long.
And then '89
then Morris gets injured in '89 preseason, and Anderson becomes the guy that year. And then they turned around and drafted a guy. Right. But you're right. It took a couple of years. That was
when they said it, I was like, you gave up a second round draft pick and you're not even playing. Anyway,
that's the same year though. The Giants cut Phil McConkey and then traded with Green Bay
to get him back.
Because they, Parcells was a stickler. We're not going to lose games on special teams.
If you guys ever want to see a really good, cool thing, search on YouTube the NFL Films interview with Phil McConkey by who's the guy that I can't believe I'm forgetting his name. Anyway, the main guy, I think he's passed away now, but there's the main guy that interviews guys there's a great interview with Phil McConkey. And
was it Steve Sabol?
Steve Sabol. Is Steve Sabol still alive or he did pass away?
I think he had a brain tumor.
He had an awesome interview with Phil McConkey if you guys want, and he talks about that trade and all that. It was a really good interview. And he's got his best interview, one of his best interviews ever is with Mark Bavaro. That's
absolutely. Absolutely. All right. So with that, you got to get going. Yeah. You're gonna be away for a few days. We're gonna be back at the end of the week. So, hey, let's enjoy. It could have been better for sure. Could have been 3-3. Could even have been 4-2. Who knows what it might have been if they started Dart earlier? We don't know. Either way, I think we all can say we feel pretty darn good with Jaxson Dart being the quarterback. The energy, we think he's the guy. Nothing's proven for a few years, but he is the first quarterback. Well, he's with Patrick Mahomes, and going back, I only knew it going back to 91. I did not look it up any further than that. To take a team to draw its first drive of each game in 3 straight games to score. Patrick Mahomes, Jaxson Dart are the only quarterbacks to do that, going all the way back to 1991. So think about the fact that I can't even remember the last time the Giants scored 3 straight games, their first drive, 3 straight games, period.
Yeah. I just wish we had Malik Neighbors right now. I mean, it's just awful that Malik Neighbors.
It does suck. It sucks the way that happened, but at the same time, you know what? It is what it is. Stuff happens no matter what. What we have right now, we've got one guy. I'm really interested to see what can be developed. Maybe some of these guys play a little better now with a quarterback that brings, because the one good thing is he brings attention to himself, to not just we're worried about him throwing. And that's all you worried about with Russell Wilson, was throwing down the field. Teams didn't worry about anything else. Jaxson Dart brings a whole bunch of things. I just don't want him to get a concussion. Please, for the love of God, protect your head. That's all we got to say. Protect your head.
Yeah. But I think that's part of his game. Everyone who keeps saying, if you take that away from his game, he's not Jaxson Dart. So I get it, that you're just going to have to live with it, because what makes him effective? I mean, look, let's be honest here. If Jaxson Dart wasn't running, nobody would be spying him, and it would be almost impossible for the Giants to move the ball throwing the football right now with our wide receivers. So Jackson's got to run just to keep the defense like on edge a little bit. So that's unfortunately one of the added side effects of Malik Neighbors being out, is he's got to do that. and Philadelphia was spying him, and so they were putting an extra man on him, and that helps the other guys who aren't really that good. So we'll see. The pressure's on Darius Slayton when he comes back. He's got to start catching the football. I mean,
and I agree with you. And I think the increased use of the tight ends, that's got to continue. That's got to continue. And I think we'll see more of that. So,
and look for Skattebo down the field. He did that in the playoff game against, was it Texas? I think it was against Texas. They had a 4th and 1 play, and they sent him down the field along the sideline deep, and he made like a circus wide receiver catch on that. So he can get he's not a speedster, obviously, but he can catch down the field. So I would look for Skattebo to do that.
And the other thing I'll say is keep an eye on Brian Burns. He is having a defensive MVP type of year right now. He's 1 sack behind the leader, which we play this weekend, and Nick Bonito for the Broncos. But I think the 10-day rest is going to benefit Abdul Carter the most. I think from college, the draft process, learning the NFL, and he came in kind of hot right off. I think this 10 days gives him a little bit of time to kind of step back a little bit. I think we're going to see a little bit more Abdul Carter as we move forward.
It's going to benefit a lot of people. Illinois had the back issue. John Michael Schmitz might have broken his nose, and I think he might have had a concussion. Runyon's been beat up, so it might help our whole entire offensive line too. They were a little beat up front as well, and it's like a mini bye. It's helped them. Now, if we're fortunate enough to still maybe be in a playoff hunt, that late bye will help us. But we'll have to see if we can stay alive that long too. So
true. Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to call it tonight.
Hey, wait a minute. Wait. The people who are saying this, read Side's last 2 game reviews before you say that. So, anyways,
he's been better. But I'll say so. Happy anniversary to you and Mrs. BBI. I think. Congratulations on 25 years. It's a big deal. So we'll have some fun, and we'll catch up at the end of the week and preview the Bronco game. But subscribe, all that good stuff, and playoffs. So with that, we appreciate it. Looking forward to these next 6 weeks, and we'll catch you at the end of the week talking Denver Broncos.